We've got some breaking news out of the NFL where the leaks for the NFL schedule for 2025 continue 2 days away from the full release on Wednesday. Earlier in the day, NBC announcing Dallas at Philadelphia September 4th. It's a Sunday night. Fox now announcing a doubleheader on Saturday. First up, Eagles and Commanders, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game in which the Eagles dominated the Commanders, Jalen Hurts and Jayden Daniels. Eagles, of course, also taking care of business against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That is the early game if we're going left to right, according to the graphic sent out by the network. Second game, NFC North, Green Bay at Chicago. It is going to be Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. It's also going to be Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson. Packers did make the playoffs, but they lost in the opening round to the Eagles. Eagles featured prominently so far, as Prime Video also set to make an announcement here on Monday night. I'm Tommy Tran, joined by Lijay Douzable to go over the two games we're just learning right now. So let's start with the champs and the Commanders. I mentioned a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. Dooz, what stands out to you about this Saturday, December matchup?
Yeah, I want to hit on something you said earlier, Tommy. What's the over-under for primetime games for the Eagles? Because it's only been a day, but we've already got two announcements for the Eagles already, and the world champs will be prominent when it comes to primetime. But what really stands out to me in this game, Tommy, is I believe the NFL is trying to hit lightning in the bottle twice. Let's not forget, going back to Week 16 last year, these two teams met, and it was an electrifying game. Jayden Daniels and the Commanders had 5 turnovers, but yet, Tommy, the game was in his hands. With 2 minutes left, he goes on a game-winning drive and throws a touchdown pass to Jamison Crowder with 6 seconds to win the game. The NFL knows what it's doing, Tommy, right? This is a divisional matchup. They believe these are the two top teams in the NFC East, two top teams in the NFC. Let's pin them together with playoff implications on the line. That's what stands out to me. The NFL is trying to see if they can get lightning in the bottle twice by putting this game in the same exact spot they put it last year.
So Jayden Daniels and this Commanders team took a lot of people by surprise in the playoffs all the way to the NFC Championship game. So if we are to assume that they are going to grow, how much growth will be needed Week 16 against the champs here at home in D.C./Landover, Maryland?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of growth needed because you talked about it. Jayden Daniels played out of this world last year, but this is the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. And when you look at them on offense, right, Tommy, they only lost Mekhi Becton. Everybody is coming back from that championship team. And you see Jayden Daniels and the work he put in last year as a rookie, first in wins all time, first in total touchdowns and yards as well. He played out of this world. You see the additions as well, adding a Deebo Samuel to Terry McLaurin, also Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson coming back. Josh Connerly was the pick in the first round. I really like his versatility. He might swing out to right tackle, has some ability to swing in at guard as well. They got Trey Amos in the second round. They needed a corner on the outside to put Mikey Strander still back in the slot. So the Commanders team got significantly better this offseason. You see it right there, the odds to win in the NFC East. Eagles -150, the Commanders right behind them at +240. They still need to take that next step if they want to dethrone the Super Bowl champs, though.
And we certainly know how hard it is to repeat as champs in that division. It is hard to do, hadn't been done in quite some time. If we get to Green Bay and Chicago, arguably the toughest division last year was the NFC North here. What stands out to you about this one?
This one is Ben Johnson. What type of team and mantra is he going to bring to Week 16? Because the Bears have been getting their teeth kicked in by the Green Bay Packers. Tommy, when you go back to the last 20 years, the Bears are 3-17 versus the Green Bay Packers. And before winning that Week 18 game last year, and there's a caveat to that. Remember, Jordan Love and the starters only played the first half of that game. They had lost 11 straight games to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have owned the Chicago Bears. So this is the opportunity for Ben Johnson coming over from the Detroit Lions. We know what his mantra was there. They want to be physical, run the ball. We saw his moves in the offseason. Drew Dahlman up front. Jonah as well at guard. They moved him up front, traded for Tooney. They really want to fortify that offensive line for that young man we just saw on the screen, Caleb Williams, be able to protect him, but also protect him by running the football. And on the other side, the Green Bay Packers, I said this last year when they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in that playoff game. what is going to be their identity, Tommy? Last year, it seems like they were going to roll out the gambit for Jordan Love, but then it became a running-type team with Josh Jacobs. I don't think they knew what their identity was, and it hurt them in that game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So it'll be interesting with Matt LaFleur coming out this year as they try to dethrone the Detroit Lions in that NFC North. You talked about how competitive it was. What will truly be the Green Bay Packers' identity? And Week 16, that's when your identity truly shows.
You know, when we're looking at toughest schedules, I mentioned the NFC North, and the NFL would love to have one, if not both of these teams have something to play for in Week 16, dudes. So when we take a look at the NFC North, the Vikings, of course, and the Lions are also in the mix. As it stands today, what would be your power rankings for that division heading into the season?
I think you have to give some respect to the Detroit Lions. Now, the question mark is they lost both coordinators, and we saw how that kind of affected the Philadelphia Eagles in the 23 season when they lost both of their coordinators to head coaching jobs. But a majority of that team is coming back, so you have to give some respect to the Detroit Lions. I would have it just how it is right here. I would say the Detroit Lions are the #1 team. The Green Bay Packers are the #2 team. The Vikings, right? Essentially a rookie quarterback playing for them because he didn't play all last year, and J.J. McCarthy, so this is essentially would be his rookie year. But no team, I thought, did a better job of fortifying their weaknesses in the offseason when you talk about really shoring up that interior of that offensive line and defensive line. And then you got the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson coming over, Caleb Williams. You hope he takes a sophomore leap with Ben Johnson as the coordinator and head coach of that team. I already talked about how they refortify that offensive line, but just how it's stated there, I would have the Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and then the Chicago Bears.
Lige Douzable with more on the schedule release as we're continuing to find out which games and which teams will be featured. Thank you, Douz. Again, we're still awaiting Prime Video to make its decision. Maybe it'll be an NFC team again. It'll be a clean sweep on a Monday. We haven't seen the AFC yet so far. ESPN and those international games to see who will be paired with the likes of the Colts and the Dolphins. We'll see on Tuesday. We will have Wednesday announcements, CBS mornings, as well as Netflix, of course, for those Christmas Day games, and then the full release happening Wednesday night.
Here, well, sort of, right? The 2025
it comes
NFL
in stages.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Yes, it officially drops in its entirety on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, but we keep getting little sprinkles of information. And I want to say shout out to Bryant McFadden because he was predicting that it was going to be the Cowboys that the Eagles were going to welcome to town for that Thursday night opener. Eagles fans, they're going to rub in that banner raising and all of that stuff right in front of their divisional rival. And for Cowboys fans, you don't want to see that, but it's going to be a good, prove it point Breach for Dak and a new head coach. John Breach joining us here because we're going to break down what we know so far when it comes to the schedule. We know some games. We do know all the opponents, Breach, and we know that the Giants, they have a very difficult schedule, and it's kind of a prove-it year for Dable and the coaching staff. So what are your thoughts on that in mind with it being a prove-it year for those coaches and the schedule that they have facing in front of them?
Well, my thought that if I was Brian Daboll and I was in a prove-it year, I would not want to be the head coach of the New York Giants right now because they have an absolutely brutal schedule. As you said, Jacqueline, we know all the opponents. They have the most difficult strength of schedule going into the 2025 season. And a big reason for that is because they're facing 10 teams that made the playoffs last season. So that is a brutal gauntlet for a team that's going to have a new quarterback, that's going to be completely overhauled, and have a head coach who's going to be on the hot seat going into week 1. And when you look at their schedule, obviously they have those big divisional games. They face the defending Super Bowl champs, Eagles twice. They have to face the Commanders twice. And then you look at their home schedule. 6 of their 8 games at home are against teams that make the playoffs. The Packers, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Chargers. So just every week, the Giants are going to get tested. And really, that's the whole NFC East. Because when you have a tough strength of schedule, it is because you're at the mercy of the schedule rotation. And this year, the NFC East, every team in that division will be facing the AFC West and the NFC North. So when you're the Giants, that means you're staring at games against the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos. And then you have to look at the NFC North. That division